You wanted chaos? You wanted violence? You wanted a moment so controversial it would split the entire wrestling world in half. Because what happened inside the chamber wasn't just a match. It was a war that left fans screaming, furious, divided, and questioning everything they thought they knew about loyalty, legacy, and betrayal. When CM Punk stepped into the steel prison against Finn Bálor for the World Heavyweight title at Elimination Chamber 2026, it wasn't just about gold. It was about pride. It was about redemption. And it was about proving who truly runs WWE. And by the end of this match, someone's reputation was shattered. Before we break down every brutal second, I need you to answer this in the comments right now. Who do you believe deserved to walk out champion? Punk or Bálor? Don't wait. Pick a side. Because by the end of this breakdown, you might regret your choice. The chamber structure loomed above them like a steel monster hungry for sacrifice. 6 pods. Chains hanging like warning signs. Cold metal waiting to tear flesh. But this wasn't a 6-man match. This was personal. The crowd was electric, half chanting Punk's name, half chanting Bálor's. It was a split so loud it felt like the building itself might crack down the middle. The bell rang. And Punk didn't wait. He charged. No collar and elbow tie-up. No feeling-out process. Just fists. Right hands. Left hands. Backing Bálor into the corner. Years of frustration pouring out with every strike. Was this smart strategy? Or was Punk letting emotion control him? Drop a quick comment. Do you think emotion helps or hurts in championship matches? Because in this moment, Punk was on fire. But Bálor? He wasn't rattled. He slipped under a wild lariat and blasted Punk with a dropkick so sharp it echoed off the chamber walls. That sound, that thud, told you immediately this was going to hurt. Bálor followed up with precision. Knife-edge chops. Sharp kicks to the thigh. Methodical. Surgical. And this is what makes him so dangerous. Punk fights with chaos. Bálor fights with calculation. Within minutes, the steel structure itself became a weapon. Punk was whipped shoulder first into the chains. His body bounced violently, metal clanging like an alarm bell. And Bálor smirked. That smirk. The same smirk that says, I'm 5 steps ahead of you. But Punk isn't a rookie. He baited Bálor in, feigning injury, limping slightly. Then boom, swinging neckbreaker onto the steel grating. You could hear the air leave Bálor's lungs. The crowd exploded. And here's something I want to ask you. Which hurts more, the steel floor or the chains? Let me know in the comments. Because both men were about to find out. Midway through the match, the pace shifted. Bálor began targeting the knee. Chop block from behind. Dragon screw into the steel. Repeated stomps. He knew if he grounded Punk, he could neutralize the GTS. This is ring IQ at its highest level. Punk tried to fight back, but every step betrayed him. The pain was visible. The frustration was real. And then came the first jaw-dropping moment. Bálor climbed. Not the turnbuckle. The pod. Scaling the chamber like a predator stalking prey. The audience stood up as one. Punk staggered to his feet. Coup de grace from the pod roof. He missed. Punk rolled at the last second. And Bálor crashed onto nothing but steel. The sound was sickening. If you rewatch that moment, you'll notice something. Bálor's knee buckled slightly on impact. Did he tweak it there? Do you think that missed coup de grace changed the outcome of the match? Tell me what you think. Because from that moment forward, everything intensified. Punk smelled blood. He lifted Bálor, GTS attempt. But Bálor slipped out, shoving Punk face first into the turnbuckle. Roll up. 2 count. So close. And this is where it got controversial. Bálor grabbed a loose chain from the side panel. The referee was distracted momentarily checking Punk's knee. 1 split second. That's all it took. Chain-assisted sling blade. And now the arena was booing. Loud. Relentless. Was that desperation? Or brilliance? There's a fine line. Comment this. Was Bálor justified in using the chain inside the chamber? Because technically, everything inside is legal. But morally? That's different. Blood appeared shortly after. Punk's eyebrows split open after being launched into the pod glass. red streaking down his face. And something changed in him. If you followed his career, you know that look. That unhinged stare. He thrives in chaos. He thrives in pain. He wiped the blood away and laughed. Laughed. And the crowd roared. Sudden flurry. Running knee in the corner. Bulldog onto the steel. Anaconda vice locked in center ring. Bálor had nowhere to go. No ropes to break it. Just steel and suffocation. You could see panic in his eyes. His hand hovered. Was he going to tap? Imagine that moment. Would you have tapped out? Be honest. Because just as his hand dropped, he rolled through. Stacked Punk's shoulders. 2 count. Unbelievable. The match had already surpassed 25 minutes. Both men drenched in sweat and blood. Exhaustion setting in. But neither willing to quit. Bálor signaled for the end. Second coup attempt. He connected. Flush. Cover. 1. 2. Punk kicked out. And the roof nearly came off the arena. How? How did he survive that? Drop your reaction in one word. Shocked? Furious? Hyped? Because Bálor was stunned. He argued with the referee. That hesitation cost him. Punk lifted him again. GTS. Bálor collapsed but rolled instinctively toward the ropes. Instinct even in a no disqualification environment. Punk couldn't capitalize immediately because of the damaged knee. Seconds felt like hours. Both men crawling. This wasn't wrestling anymore. This was survival. And then came the moment that will be debated for years. The chamber door, slightly ajar from earlier impact. Bálor crawled toward it. Was he escaping? Was he retreating? Punk grabbed his leg. Dragged him back. They fought on the edge of the steel ramp outside the ring. Precarious. Dangerous. Punk attempted a suplex back inside. Bálor countered. Low blow. The referee didn't see it clearly. Another controversial decision. Should that have been called? Let me know. Because immediately after, Bálor hit a sling blade onto the steel platform. Climbed again. Coup de grace onto the ramp. Cover. 1, 2, 3. And silence. Stunned silence. Bálor had done it. But the way he did it? That's what ignited the firestorm. Chain usage. Low blow. Pod tactics. Ramp finish. The crowd was divided between boos and applause. Some called it genius. Others called it robbery. Where do you stand? Because this is where it gets even more intense. As Bálor celebrated, holding the championship high, Punk sat in the corner, bloodied, staring. Not angry. Not shouting. Just staring. And that stare said everything. This isn't over. Not even close. Let's break down what this match really meant. For Punk, this was about reclaiming the throne and proving he's still the best in the world. For Bálor, it was about cementing himself as more than a faction leader, more than a tactician, but as the guy. And in high-stakes environments like the chamber, morality bends. Rules blur. Legacies are rewritten. But here's a question I need every single one of you to answer. If you were in Bálor's position, with the title on the line, would you have done anything differently? Because championships aren't won by being nice. They're won by surviving. The stats tell part of the story. 2 coup de grace attempts from dangerous heights. 1 GTS near fall. The record books show Bálor as champion. But the image burned into fans' minds? A bloodied Punk refusing to stay down. That image might be more powerful than the title itself. And here's something that might anger some of you. If this rivalry continues, the sympathy may swing heavily toward Punk. Because fans love resilience. They love injustice narratives. And if Bálor leans further into calculated ruthlessness, he might become the most hated champion of the year. Is that a good thing? Absolutely. Because the louder the boos, the bigger the stakes. Let's revisit that missed coup from the pod. That was the turning point. Had it connected, we might be telling a different story. Instead, it humanized Bálor, showed vulnerability. And vulnerability makes victory sweeter, or more controversial. Small detail, huge impact. Did you catch that subtle knee tweak? Go back and rewatch it. It adds layers to the story. By the final bell, both men were changed. Physically battered. Emotionally charged. But only one walked out with the championship. And whether you loved it or hated it, you felt something. That's what makes it unforgettable. Now before you leave, I want rapid-fire answers in the comments. Who had the best moment of the match? Was the chain spot genius or dirty? Did Punk kick out too late on that final count? Do you want a rematch inside Hell in a Cell? And most importantly, who is the true best in the world right now? Don't just watch. Engage. Because debates like this keep the wrestling world alive. And if this match proved anything, it's that inside the chamber, friendships fade, respect dissolves, and only survival matters. The war between Punk and Bálor didn't end at 3. It started there. And if you think this story is finished, you haven't been paying attention. Choose your side. Because the next chapter might be even more brutal.